Do, drop it like it's hot, drop it like it's hot. Let's paint Hot Tropic. Hey everybody, my name's Tristan. I'm here with Me's Paint Bar to teach you step by step through this fun botanical painting. Now you can feel free to follow along or customize it however you like. All the supplies you need are linked in the description below. Sit back and relax and grab some liquid inspiration as we take you step by step through painting Hot Tropic. All right, so we're going to get started to paint Hot Tropic. I have the example art over here to my right, and I'm going to be painting on this 11 by 14 canvas to my left. Here are the colors that I am working with today. I have yellow, green, white, blue, fluorescent violet, and red. You don't need fluorescent violet. This pinky section in our leaves can be done with just red and white, but it definitely has more of a magenta look, so I added some fluorescent violet to mix with the red as well. I have some water for my brushes, some paper towels, and I also have some mixing plates. To start, we're going to figure out which way we want to do these leaves. There are two different ways. One, you can fill in your background and then use chalk to etch out your leaves if that feels more comfortable. Or the way that I'm going to be teaching you, which is going to be making a heart shape for our leaves, letting them dry, and then when we get to our background, we're going to use the background to cut into the leaves to make the shape. First step, we're going to mix up our leaf color. I'm going to use a flat brush that's round at the end. If you don't have one brush like this, just pick a flat brush. I'm going to grab 1 scoop of white, 1 scoop of yellow, and a half a scoop of green and mix those up. Now you can play with this green till you get to where you like. I ended up adding a little bit more green to mine. From there, we're going to identify where our 2 hearts are going to be. I'm going to start with my very large heart that's in the bottom left section of my canvas. I know I want the tip of my heart to be pretty close to the bottom. From there, you're just going to go ahead and draw your heart in. It's always better to start off small, and then you can always make it bigger if you want to. All right, from there you can fill that heart in. Here's a fun tip to getting your paint looking really smooth. If you do tiny little brush strokes like this, you can see all the brush marks. But if you do long brush strokes and you kind of don't stop, and go from one end of your shape or canvas to the other, it will smooth out all those lines. My second heart is going to be about half the size of this heart, right above and to the right. It is going to be touching it, so I'm going to figure out where the tip of that heart's going to be. And then fill it in. Now, while this paint is still wet, we're going to be adding a little bit of a lighter green in the center, just to brighten it up, more of a limey green. So to the green that I have, I want you to grab another scoop of yellow and a scoop of white, and mix that up till you get a nice lime green. And again, we're going to add this while this paint is still wet, so you want to move fairly quickly. Acrylic paint does dry very, very fast. So I'm going to start in the center of my heart and then just fling it outwards. I'm not working back and forth, I'm just working in one direction here. Then from the other side, again, starting in the middle and flinging it outwards. And from there, I'm going to be taking about a 5 to 10 minute dry break. Feel free to use a blow dryer to make it dry even quicker, or you can just step away for a moment. All right, my leaves are nice and dry. I can touch them and the paint should not be on my hands or moving around my canvas. Next up, we're going to mix up our background color. I'm going to keep the same brush to mix up this color, just to make sure I mix up enough. So make sure you really get that brush nice and clean so we don't add any green to this nice sunsetty yellow. Clean brush, I'm going to grab a scoop of white, a scoop of yellow, and a very, very small touch of red, like the smallest amount you can get. This will help the yellow be more of a sunset yellow and not so chrome-like or like a highlighter. Once we have our background color mixed up, we're going to switch over to a smaller brush. I'm going to use this yellow brush here. It's very thin and pointy, kind of like a pencil. And whenever you work with a brush like this, you want to twirl your brush in the paint. All right, it's time to draw out the little cuts that go inside of our leaves. So if we look over here, I'm going to copy these exactly. Some of them are more triangular. Some of them have more of a rounded edge. Some of them kind of come out and back in almost like a leaf. It's really up to you how you want to play this out. I would say start small and you can always increase the size of these. Now down here at the bottom, I did make it a little bit more pointy. So a little round down to a point, back up the same way. Once you have your cuts, you can go ahead and fill those in. If using that same brush works for you, that's great. You could even switch over to a larger brush if you feel confident getting in all of the crevices. Now, if you can still see through this yellow, that's totally fine. Whoopsie. Even I make little happy mistakes. Little happy accidents, as Bob Ross would say. If you can still see through this yellow, that is okay. We are actually going to be doing a second layer of this color on these little cuts once it dries. All right, once we have the cuts in, we're going to fill our entire background with that yellow. I'm going to switch to a larger brush, a larger flat brush to fill in that space. Now, if you want your painting to look really professional, you can take that paint and you can hit the sides of your canvas if your canvas does wrap around the edges. That way it'll look really nice from all angles when you hang it up on your wall. Now, while we wait for our background to dry, we're going to be coming into our leaves to get these colors in. We have a very light blue that's going to help define the lines inside of our leaves. Let's move to a very, very small pointy brush. I'm using the same one that I used to draw the cuts, grabbing a scoop of white and just an itty bitty amount of blue. You want it to be a super, super light baby blue. And remember to twirl that brush. All right, first thing, I want to draw a line right down the middle. As I get to the bottom of my leaf, I want to flick my brush so that it kind of tapers off at the bottom. And flick. Make it a little longer. From there, we're going to be drawing these lines that go up and over almost like a rainbow shape. And again, flicking it at the end of the line to make it taper off. Next, with that same color, we have a couple of dots inside of our leaves. I kind of picture these as little water droplets that are sitting on top of the leaves in the rainforest. They're not quite circular, they're more of like an oval shape. Next, we're going to be mixing up the magenta that's going to be going in between some of those blue lines. I'm going to switch over to a larger pointy brush. You can use the same small pointy brush if that's the only one you have. From there, I'm going to grab a very, very small touch of white, a big scoop of red, a big scoop of my fluorescent violet, and mix those up. Now, if you want to make it more purpley in tone, you can always add a touch of blue in there as well. Be very careful with the blue. It's a very strong color. So I'm going to pick a corner starting kind of on this middle line here. So like this corner here, and it fans out from that point. No back and forth, just painting in one direction from the bottom of this point and flicking out. Next up, we're going to add a second layer of that background yellow into the cuts inside of our leaves. Perfect. Now our big leaves are done, and we can focus on the smaller leaves and those blue dots in the background. For these leaves back here, we're going to be mixing up a lime green. It's going to be mostly yellow with just a very small touch of green added in. I'm kind of mixing this up on top of this yellow I had for my background if you have it still. But a lot of yellow, a little bit of green. A little bit of white as well, just in case you're mixing up a new batch somewhere else on a plate. I'm going to start with this big leaf here in the center of the three. It goes up towards the top, starting just in the middle of the leaf. From there, from the point at the top, it's going to come out and back down. And on the other side, we're going to come out. Then we're going to cut downwards, kind of halfway on that side, cut back out, and then go back down. Almost like a little mouth on the side of your leaf. Next leaf is to the left of it. It is a little bit smaller, and it is also touching your leaf. I'm going to leave a very small gap in between the two, just so you can tell which leaf is which. Now my third lime green leaf is going to be sitting behind my darker leaf right here. I don't have as much space as this here, obviously, because everybody's painting is going to turn out a little different. So I'm just going to have it sitting right behind it and not much of it's going to show. All right, looking good, looking good. We only have 2 more steps left in our painting. Next up, we're going to be adding the blue dots that are in our background. This is going to be a slightly darker blue than the one that we use inside of our leaves. Going to move to my larger pointy brush. I'm going to do a full scoop of white and a full scoop of blue. Mix those up. And then we're going to be adding these oval dots in our background in these small little groupings. Next up, we're going to be adding those darker green lines inside of the lime green leaves. I'm going to be using a very thin pointy brush and mixing up a scoop of green, a little bit of yellow, starting with a line going right down the center. And then we're going to be having leaves that start in the center and filling out to the sides. Some of them are going to be longer or shorter than others. Just make sure you don't do the same line twice. And that's the last step to our painting. Of course, there's always one last thing to do to any piece of artwork that you make, and that is to sign your name. I recommend choosing a color that is nice and vibrant, and you can sign that painting wherever you like. Mostly people sign it in the bottom right-hand corner. It is really up to you. Well, didn't we just tropic like it's hot? We hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and we would love to see your finished masterpieces. Feel free to drop your masterpiece photos in the description down below or tag us on social media at Muse Paint Bar. If you really enjoyed this tutorial, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you again next time.